I'm a very sentimental person. When I'm traveling and having a wonderful time, I'm prone to premature waves of nostalgia. Suddenly, I will worry about how I'm going to remember this exact moment, this restaurant, this afternoon, who I was with, what I was wearing, the sights, the sounds, and a picture isn't enough. I need something stronger. Travel journaling is a hobby I picked up in an effort to quell my fear of failing to capture my memories before they disappear into the ether. My methods for documenting my travel memories involve a combination of scrapbooking, sketching, and writing. Let's unpack how I travel journal. You would think that I journal while I'm traveling, as you see in these videos. I'm trying to embrace on-location sketching more, but in truth, I rarely do so. What I prefer and what works for me is to gather everything I've collected on my travels in a Ziploc bag and then sit at my desk at home with all of my materials, my glue, my paints, my scissors, and go from there. The ritual of travel journaling after a vacation, like all journaling, is an exercise in mindfulness, of paying attention to and processing my experiences. After I unpack my clothes, I unpack my memories into this journal. It's like when the ice melts in your cocktail and you get a second drink. It's a way of reliving my memories and really squeezing all the juice out of my time away, making sense of it all when I come back home. My travel journal formats vary widely. Each page is inspired by different things and executed in different ways. Some entries are full of sketches, others are arranged around ephemera that I gathered on my trip. Some have writing and others don't have any writing at all. The purpose is to focus on my favorite elements of the trip or a particular moment or outing and find a way to capture it on the page. As such, each page is very different, but they always include the date and the address or location, essential elements for the archival properties of the journal. These are a few of the notebooks that I've used or am using to save items and capture experiences from my travels. This is my oldest travel journal. It's from the brand Minimalism Art that I purchased many years ago, so in like 2017. It doesn't have super thick paper, but it is sturdy enough to handle some marker and maybe one layer of watercolor. In here, you'll find some of my first proper travel journal entries. This one is from Brazil. I saved a ticket from the Sugarloaf cable car. I did a little sketch, some writing, and I drew some of the food I ate that day. These pages are from Peru. My parents are from Peru and I visit my family in Lima a lot. Peruvian food is of world renown and lucky for me, I get to eat home cooking and restaurant food whenever I go. Food is one of the ways I connect to my own culture and to others, and I thought it'd be fun to food journal by drawing one thing that I ate every day, even the super mundane, like toast. There's some lomo saltado, ceviche, of course, one of my favorites, and a mango popsicle I had at the beach. This is one of the most common formats for my travel journal. I call it the restaurant recap, and I draw the order of food and I drew the receipt here. Real receipts are heat sensitive and fade over time, so it's better to just handwrite them or scan them. This notebook was also my sketchbook at the time, so I'm trying to find another travel journal page. Here are more pages from Lima, 2 casual sandwich spots I like to hang out at. I love drawing buildings and storefronts, one of my favorite ways to capture a place. This is the Baronfig Confidant hardcover notebook in the mini size. It was a gift from Baronfig last year, and I've been throwing it in my purse in an effort to urban sketch more. These are from a day in Bryant Park. I also write to-do lists and shopping lists in here, so it feels very low stakes, which helps me to be more spontaneous. Sketching is a big part of my travel journaling method, and my purse notebook is a great place to practice. These are the lists I was talking about, or sometimes I just swatch things in here. Here's a quick sketch from the Great Lawn in Central Park, and here's some sketching I did on my recent trip to Paris. I'm a big itinerary person, so I even have notes on our plans for the day next to the sketch of a bistro. Here's an unfinished building, a drawing of a very cute bookstore I saw in the 6th. I actually ended up transferring this sketch to another notebook, which I'll get to later. This sketch is from Lille Bakery in Copenhagen. They actually ask that you not take pictures of the workers or the patrons in the cafe, so I tried to sketch the inside instead. The food was incredible. And yeah, that's my purse notebook. This notebook is from the brand Lamali Paris. It's a French brand with paper handmade in India. The paper is rough, textured, and 100% cotton, which makes it highly absorbent and thus great for watercolor and ink. The best watercolor paper is made from cotton, so it's only natural. I got the smallest size as a souvenir from Paris, but this brand is sold worldwide, don't worry. And I decided to start a project to fill every page of this little book with memories from my trip to Paris and Copenhagen last year. It's been like 7 months since that trip, but you know what? It's a fun project to challenge myself with, and I'm more than halfway through. As a bonus challenge, I'm only using the Charvon watercolor palette I bought on the same trip. Charvon is a very old paint store in Paris, and it's so beautiful it looks like a paint museum. I was very happy to leave with this mini watercolor palette as a souvenir, and the end result of this project will be a very elaborate handmade souvenir from my trip. So starting with the watercolor palette swatch, here's what I've done so far in the Lamali Mini. I drew some items that I bought, I saved packaging from shops that I love, I swatched washi tape from a stationery store, I painted my new shoes, I saved business cards. Honestly, Paris is a shopping town, and I did a lot of that. Here is a page I did with a stencil I got at a stationery shop in Copenhagen. The owner of the shop is so friendly, and she actually designed the stencil herself in collaboration with Palomar, so the shop name is on the stencil itself. A perfect souvenir. I used watercolor to make some blobs and place the stencil on top, and I love the way that this page turned out. I saved some museum maps in here, like this one from the Danish Architecture Center, and we also went to Versailles, which is a huge place and so deserved many different spreads in this notebook. I did some sketches of the gardens, and I also sketched some pieces from the Louvre. Because I went to Paris and Copenhagen on the same trip, I drew both types of metro signs. I think that's my favorite page. I saved a postcard, I reviewed individual pastries that I ate in both Denmark and France, along with watercolor paintings of each. Here's a ticket and a sketch from the Design Museum of Denmark, and another classic metro sign in Paris. Some beautiful hotel stationery. Absolutely love staying at NH in Copenhagen. Since this is an ongoing project, let's add a couple new pages in this journal together. I have my Charvon palette out, and once I find a blank page, I really need something with weight to hold this book open or it just springs back up. That's one thing about working with this size of notebook. These clips can be found in many stationery stores, but mine are from Present and Correct in London, one of my favorite shops. I still have ephemera that I haven't gotten to from this trip. Ephemera are paper items that are meant for one-time use, like tickets, matchbooks, candy wrappers, or fruit stickers, and this one is a map. It's a big map for a big place, and I need to figure out how I'm going to save it in this very small journal. So we're gonna cut. I know that I want to keep this text element. It tells us where we are, so I'm cutting that out first. And we really only explored the main gardens just behind the palace, so those are the parts of the map that I want to save because they're relevant to my experience on the trip. So this is what we have to work with. It's still pretty big. Trimming more and more, and I think this is good for one page. So I glued it down and added the date off camera. It's a very quick and easy page, but I still have some more map, so it's on to the next page. I used some craft scissors from my childhood to add some texture. I'm sure they can be found at many craft stores, so I don't know where these are from specifically. This section of the map is quite long. When you exit the Palace of Versailles into the gardens, you have a very impressive view down the Grand Canal, so I thought, what if we recreated this effect in the journal by creating a fold-out element on the page? I glued down the map, secured it with a clamp, and while that dries, I'm working on the other side. I'm just putting down a light wash of green watercolor for the background and adding in the text that we cut out earlier and some washi tape to embellish. To complete our fold-out element, I'm going to back the thin paper of the map with some thicker paper so that the fold-out flap is nice and sturdy. I'm just doing that by gluing some thick paper to the back of the map paper. And so that the fold-out element is obvious, I'm writing a little note that this piece of paper opens. Upon further reflection, maybe the arrow should be pointing up. Voiceover realizations. Oh well, this is the end result. I love these pages. I think it's a great way to save the map and also illustrate that the gardens don't fit onto one page. It kind of mirrors this other page I made, which features a painting of the gardens but vertically oriented. Speaking of paintings, on to the next blank page. This is a sketch that I transferred from my Baronfig notebook that we looked at earlier, my purse notebook. As you can see in the reference photo I took, this is a very charming bookshop, straight out of a Wes Anderson movie. We were walking casually in the 6th when we spotted it, and I knew I had to draw it. It's so charming. Observing different architecture styles, building details are some of my favorite ways to travel journal. I love drawing buildings and storefronts. They really lend a sense of place to the pages. I was thinking of maybe doing a full color illustration, but just looking at the simplicity of the red paint with a black outline, I decided to leave it as is. The building really was a pop of red as we walked by, and that's the highlight of this particular moment in Paris and how it feels in my memory. So I added no other colors. I later wrote a little entry about the shop, including the address, and another page is complete as a part of this ongoing pocket-sized project. I really love working with this Lamali book. I've decorated the outside and am still filling each page little by little with different moments and memories. This is my main travel journal. I started keeping it in January of 2023. My yellow notebook was a combination sketchbook and travel journal, but I wanted to have a dedicated and smaller notebook for the express purpose of keeping travel memories. It's an Archer and Olive notebook in the traveler's size. It's smaller and lighter than the previous notebook I was using, but the paper is a lot thicker. I love using Archer and Olive because of their paper thickness. I decorated the first page with some scrap paper from a different trip to Paris. I love to hop over there whenever I have the opportunity. It has some of the best stationery shops. I started off this travel journal with a format I call itinerary highlights. I basically make little sketches representing the highlights of the trip. This page on the left was a trip to New York. I lived in California at the time. I drew a breakfast I had with my mom when we landed, and we went to MoMA and saw the Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro exhibit. They had many of the sets and props from the stop-motion movie, which was amazing to see. On the other side, I drew the Airbnb from a trip to Colorado I took with my friends. We booked a cabin in the snow with this amazing view, so I drew the patio and the hot tub in the snow and the front of the house. It was such a cozy getaway, and the house we stayed in made it so special, so that's what I wanted to highlight from that trip. Using the same format, I drew some highlights from a trip to Peru. I drew a bikini that I wore a lot and some memories from the beach. And then I went to Coachella with some friends, so I documented the weekend by drawing my outfit and writing down the artists that I saw for each day. This is definitely one of my favorite spreads. This is the same format for a long weekend in New Orleans. I loved drawing the architecture here. This is a format you'll see a lot in my travel journal. If I visit an amazing shop, I will document it. This is Moran Montagu in Paris. I made this spread when I first visited in 2023. I drew the exterior and the amazing interior, and then I saved the packaging from the stuff that I bought. And of course, I drew what I actually bought, which I actually have right here in my room. I'll show you. This is the watercolor palette you see in my journal spread. The owner of the shop is a watercolor artist, so they sell palettes in store. Some are in collaboration with Charvon, and others are just store branded, like this one. So I'm not sure who the manufacturer is, but I absolutely love these paints. They're so pigmented, they're so pretty. I adore this palette, and it came with a store branded travel brush. Overall, an amazing souvenir. Also in the spread, you'll see I bought the store's book. The shop is magical. It feels like walking into an artist's apartment filled with lovely souvenirs like porcelain dishes and home decor and art supplies. And the book is about the art of shopkeeping and the world of studios, workshops, and handmade things made in Paris. So it's filled with incredible pictures of these places. It's a fantastic coffee table book, definitely one of my favorites. And you actually don't have to buy it in France. If you're based in the US, for example, you can get it at most bookstores. In fact, I think I'll link it in the description so you can check out this wonderful book. So anyway, that's one way of documenting a shopping trip. Here's another example of the same format for Choosing Keeping, a beautiful stationery store in London. I drew the storefront, wrote down the address, I drew all the little stationery items I bought. I stamped the date right here, and I of course saved the sticker they used to wrap my purchases. It's one of those shops that carefully wraps each item you buy. The experience of going here is so special, and definitely something I wanted to remember in my journal. This is another way I travel journal. I save the ephemera from the outing. In this case, they're tickets from Angel's Flight in downtown LA, the world's shortest railway. You can tap to pay with your LA tap card, but if you pay cash, you can get paper tickets, which make a great souvenir to save. I drew the train car on the hill. I remember I was showing my cousins around LA, so it's a fun memory to save. Sometimes I do full-page illustrations if I feel like it. Again, this is a sketchbook, scrapbook, travel journal, diary, all in one. There are really no rules. I was visiting my parents and it's very rural there, and I just drew the view from my run. I thought it was interesting, very agricultural, and they actually don't live there anymore, so this image brings nostalgia about where I grew up. Here's another storefront. This is Mélodie Graphique in Paris. I had a lot of fun drawing the shop windows and using my metallic paint. I saved the labels from the packaging on the page. I also have them saved in my Lamali notebook. These are from 2 separate trips. Another shopping trip in the books. Yet another classic way I like to travel journal, as we've already kind of explored, is food journaling. I usually do this in the form of restaurant reports. This one is from Routier in San Francisco. I find drawing and writing about food to be so important to me because it's such an ephemeral experience. Meals are so short, and once you eat the food, it's gone. All you're left with is maybe a memory of how it made you feel, but then it's time to eat again, so it's okay. It's also a reason why I take pictures of my food, but I also draw them. This dinner was superb. The potatoes were fantastic, and I just had to write about it. I love this restaurant. I actually went recently for my birthday. I could flip through every single page in this travel journal and go over each one, but it would take a very long time, so I'm just going to quickly flick through these. If there's a demand for that though, please let me know and maybe I'll make a separate video. Now that the journal is nearly full, it's so fun to flip through and relive so many meals I shared with friends, museums visited, and speaking of birthdays, this is a spread I did for my 30th birthday party, which was so fun and deserved its own 2 pages, complete with the drawing of my outfit. The party was 80s themed, and a drawing of the cake. This was a lunch I had with my mom in Paris. They actually gave me a sticker with the meal, so of course I journaled about it. The food is amazing though. It's a Lebanese place called Koubri, and the storefront is super cute, so I drew that as well. These are more junk journaling pages from Paris, some hotel stationery, some packaging from shopping, a business card, part of a museum brochure. I feel this is a really proper junk journal spread. This next page sort of embodies all the elements of my travel journal formats. We have some ephemera, or junk, as some people call it, for junk journaling. We have illustrations from the outing. This is of the Musée de l'Orangerie. I drew my mom and I looking at Monet's water lilies. And I also did some writing about that day. I look at this page and I feel transported. I like running, and since I moved back to New York, I started running 5K races again. I sign up for these as a way to always have a goalpost when I exercise, and whenever I complete a race, I cut out a part of the bib and write down my time, a way of both tracking my progress and keeping my memories. This page is from Albi in France. I saved a part of the map we got at the visitor center, and I painted the view from the Toulouse-Lautrec Museum. I saved the museum ticket here. And yeah, there are years of memories in here, so many trips and travels, and I wouldn't even say that I've travel journaled as much as I want to. I have many ideas for pages that I never even got to, which is why we're going to make up for lost time by travel journaling about a trip that took place almost 3 years ago. As you know, I save my ephemera from my travels, but sometimes I don't get to it all. I keep the leftovers in this packing cube, and I'm like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, I'm ready now, so let's complete a page in my travel journal together. These items are from a trip to the Dolomites in Italy in 2022. These are the mountains that inspired the landscapes of Howl's Moving Castle. Yes, it looks like that in real life. Definitely an unforgettable trip, but I haven't processed it artistically as much as I want to. I have these wonderful tickets with photographs and illustrations of the places that we visited, and I'm going to use them in a spread. As you can see, this is one of the last blank pages in this journal, so I definitely want to get these memories into this one rather than the next notebook, seeing how overdue they are. I think my painting skills have improved since the trip though, so I'm going to go for it and do a big landscape painting here. I have my iPad out so I can look at the reference photo I took from the trip and start from there. I started sketching with a watercolor pencil. I love using these because they're water soluble, so your sketch will basically disappear once you add water. Getting the rough shape of the mountains. I'm going to use my custom watercolor palette that we built together in my last video. If you want to check out that process, see my spring vlog. And I'm using my ceramic mixing palette, which has a bunch of different shaped wells, and we're ready to paint. I'm starting with a wash of green. This painting will be mostly green, and this landscape is very dramatic. It will be a fun challenge to paint. I like these green slopes a lot already. I'm not going to add a ton of detail because I know that I'll be adding tickets and maybe some writing on top, so I'm just focusing on the big shapes and the defining features. I'm using Payne's Gray for the rocks and mountains, one of my favorite watercolor tubes. We talked about this in the last video. And now I'm just adding layers. I added some white gouache to make the clouds pop with some lowlights thanks to Payne's Gray. And now it's time to configure things on the page to make this journaly. I'm writing the name of the location on top, very important. This spot is called Seceda, and I wrote the date at the top. And now it's time to figure out where to put these tickets. The reason we're making this page, I decided to put this one in the corner, and then I have this other ticket. It's exactly the same, but I'm thinking we flip it so we can see the other side because it has a hiking map on it. I decided to glue it down here on top of the little cabins I drew. See, this is why we don't do a ton of details when painting backgrounds. Oh well. I also have this little picture of the mountain from the brochure that could go here. I'm now seeing how exaggerated my slopes are, but I also think this is a slightly different angle. Anyway, we're gonna glue that down here. I'm adding a diary entry on top of the painting for that written element, something I like to add, as you know. And we have a fully fleshed out travel memory from almost 3 years ago. It's never too late to do that project you've been thinking about. Here is another page I did from the same trip. In a way, I'm glad I did this so late. It's nice to revisit these amazing places and these memories. I've since finished this entire journal. I've used all the ephemera I had from past trips, something that's been on my to-do list forever. This year I actually made the resolution to travel less and stay home more. This year I really want to focus more on staying home and focusing on personal projects like starting a YouTube channel, writing for Substack, and enjoying the wonderful city where I live. But you don't actually have to go anywhere to do this type of journaling. I travel journal all the time about my regular everyday life. Now that this journal is completely full, I'm going to start a new one to casually use as a diary, sketchbook, and yes, travel journal. And I'll show you how I documented a weekend in my life. So this is a Talens sketchbook I picked up at Blick. Here it is next to my last travel journal. It's basically a 4.5-inch square. I wanted to try something new, and I also wanted to encourage more on-location sketching by choosing a smaller and lighter book. The pages are thinner than my Archer & Olive, but I like the size. It's like an album, and it has a bookmark and an elastic band, which I love. If I orient this vertically, it's almost like a single page in my old notebook. This size will be much easier to throw in my bag, and I think I'll be less precious about it and hopefully use it a lot, which will help me practice. I have this urge to personalize everything, so of course we're going to prepare the sketchbook by customizing it. I have these lovely stickers from Greenwich Letterpress. I've been saving them for a special occasion, and these are definitely front cover stickers, you know? So I decided to put the apple on the front, and then I put the little artist sticker on the back. I'm going to keep the outside decoration simple, just like this. And on the inside, off camera, I added some scrapbooking paper I was also saving for a special occasion, and a cover page with the date and the handle in case I lose this notebook. This inner cover page is done because the first page is bound a little differently than the rest of the book. But okay, a weekend in my life, let's document it in my brand new travel journal. On Friday, I went to a concert. I saw a Japanese breakfast in Brooklyn with Ginger Root as the opener. The show was amazing. I'm a huge fan of both artists. Ginger Root had this camera guy on stage who was basically a member of the band, and I love the watermark they had on the monitor while filming, so I drew that on the left-hand side. Michelle Zahner performed out of this clamshell on the stage. She looks like a rock star birth of Venus, so I decided to draw that. I'm not very good at drawing people, but in an age of digital concert tickets, this is a nice way to get a paper memory of the concert in my journal. On Saturday, a friend organized a get-together on one of the piers of Brooklyn Bridge Park. She asked everyone to bring a bouquet and a book you were done reading. We put all the flowers in the middle and built our own bouquets to take home. It was such a lovely outing. It's really starting to feel like summer. I went home with my flowers. Here they are in my dining room. So to document this memory and this wonderful day, I'm going to draw the flowers in the vase. I just did a quick little sketch with my Tombow dual brush pens, nothing super serious. In my opinion, I think I made the vase too big and the flowers too small, but it's okay. This is a sketchbook, it's just practice, and not every single drawing I do, especially on camera, turns out quite right. So maybe I'll redo this another day, but I still documented this lovely day on the weekend. Sunday was another beautiful day in New York City. I woke up super early to run a 5K on Governor's Island with my friend. Here are our feet at the starting line, and we ran the course on really an exceptionally beautifully clear day. It was wonderful. To save this memory, I'm drawing the logo from the 5K on one side. I just copied the logo from my running bib. And on the other side, I just wrote a little blurb about the race and that day. And that's how I broke in this new sketchbook with 3 simple pages just documenting a weekend in my life that I really enjoyed. Summer is coming and it's gonna be a fun one this year. So this was my travel journal ecosystem. These 2 are retired though because they are full. But I have one more thing in addition to the new journal that we just set up. I did get a new Archer & Olive travel journal. I thought this particular model was retired, the one with the grass, and not coming back in stock, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try the Talens. But it did come back, only a few days later. And you know what? I think this will be my real new travel journal, and my Talens notebook will still be a part of the ecosystem as a more casual sketchbook. And I like that. I think this will work for me. Once I finish that Paris and Copenhagen journal, this will be a cleaner, more efficient system. Maybe. Things can always change, and I seem to always be creating new projects for myself. but I'm absolutely in love with this notebook and I can't wait to use it as my new successor to the Archer and Olive postcard journal that I had before. In a couple years, it will have grown and changed and been filled with more travels and outings. Thanks for following along in my travel journal. I'm still new to YouTube, so let me know about what kinds of videos you would like to see next. But for now, I'll leave you with these shots of Central Park in the spring.